Hey, my handsome ladies and gentlemen, this is Shmeaty. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new. Urshifu Rapid Strike has more than proven its worth in the Match League to be a top-tier core breaker. However, with the addition of Lunala, its job has gotten quite a bit more difficult, but I am going to show you guys the run that I made. I do want to highlight that this run from the 2500s to the high 2800s was done before Lunala got its widespread availability by being released into raids. That being said, this is still a very strong team, and Urshifu Rapid Strike is still a very strong core breaker, as we're going to see in game number 1, leading Urshifu Rapid Strike into Kyogre. Kyogre wants no parts of that, immediately safe switching into Palkia. However, Urshifu Rapid Strike has the pacing advantage. Even if Palkia is even on energy, we are still going to be able to outpace them to our first dynamic punch. They are going to fire off a move at my Zacian, and at this point I just say, you know what, if you've got Fire Blast, blast me. They don't have a Fire Blast, they go for the Aqua Tail, and we're intentionally going to let them throw the second Aqua Tail before we start throwing moves back at the Palkia. I've started to adapt to just throwing the Behemoth Blade here, and this is actually very interesting range. I may be able to live this Aqua Tail, and I am able to do so. Able to click on the close combat. Worst case scenario, I don't want to give the Palkia more farm. They actually let it go. In comes the Kyogre, but Kyogre is going to have a bad time as Urshifu Rapid Strike and Kyurem Black awaited in the back. They have a Dialga origin. I don't know what this Pokemon is doing on this team. This is not a Pokemon you want to run in this season. Trust me, you are just signing up for some free losses there. Nevertheless, Urshifu getting massive damage onto the Dialga. Dialga's going to be able to make a move, but KB's got 2 shields. There's nothing Dialga's going to be able to do here. They fire off the Iron Head. It just doesn't matter. They could try to catch the Fusion Bolt, I guess, and lose their entire Kyogre. That's a play they can make. Nevertheless, in comes the Kyogre. This opponent intent on playing this matchup out to the bitter end, so I guess we're going to have to show them how it was going to end all along. Fusion Bolt onto the Kyogre. Kyogre no longer exists. GG's. Getting into the next game, oh my goodness, Urshifu Rapid Strike up against another Kyogre. Kyogre, of course, going to be in for a bad time. Immediate safe switch into the Palkia. A lot of Kyogre and Palkia safe switch teams. It could be a myriad of different thirds, but the most common that I saw was Triple Water with a Charm Primarina in back. I know, I thought we left Charm Primarina many seasons ago. Unfortunately, Charm damage gives it enough merit into the Dragon Heavy Master League where it can do something. They are going to be able to fire off a move onto my Zacian. I'm not going to shield it. If they blast me, they blast me. So be it. And now I am going to look to build up, but once again, I don't have to throw yet. I want to get this in Behemoth Blast range, or Behemoth Blade range, and do as much damage to them with the Metal Claws as possible, while over-farming to have as much energy as possible as well. I go for the Behemoth Blade, and now they hard switch into the Kyogre, and Kyogre is going to be able to fire off a move onto the Kyurem Black, but KB is just going to shrug this damage off. It's a Surf. Surf doesn't even get us to 50% HP, and look who's got the Fusion Bolt loaded, looking for the undercharge onto the Kyogre. Kyogre is going to be left at an HP range where KB can fully farm down, and now what is it they decide to bring in? If they bring in the Primarina, Primarina's cooked because we have so much loaded energy. We've got the Fusion Bolt banked. Palkia gonna be forced to make a tough decision. They no-shielded, and in the back, it's Primarina on Charm. We make another Fusion Bolt, and now you know who resists Charm? That's right, Zacian with its Steel typing. We're bringing in the Zacian, looking to make that Behemoth Blade or make this trainer top left. Unfortunately, they didn't reach for the top left button in time, hoping that they could Charm down. That's not going to happen, GG's. Getting into the next game, I swear you guys are going to accuse me of cherry picking these games, but pre-Lunala, every single team near enough was hard ABA weak to the Moist Man. Speaking of the Moist Man, we are going to switch out of the Moist Man into KB and catch the Fusion Bolt on 6. The trainer really hoped that we would be able to stay into that matchup and be forced to go down a shield, but I'm just not going to let that happen. Bringing in my own KB, and I'm throwing the big move. Free Shock removes their KB from the field, and this is such a tough spot for my opponent here. I did alternate, you'll see, with the best buddies. I sometimes had it on KB as the save switch, and I sometimes had it on Urshifu Rapid Strike. Rapid Strike Urshifu doesn't have that many bonuses other than winning CMP over other Urshifu Rapid Strike, but its inaccessibility makes it a lot less common of a Pokemon than something like KB or Zacian. So having those best buddy equipped could potentially be more so in your favor. They are going to fire off a move onto my Zacian here, and I'm going to shield it up. It is the Dark Pulse. I'm pretty sure I could have survived that, and they did make the move one turn before me there. This is a devious bait. I'm going for the close combat. The close combat does get the shield, but unfortunately, I'm not able to make the Behemoth Blade. I'm tabbing out. I'm trying to make sure I don't get one turn bringing in the Moist Man, going to fire off the Aqua Jet. Aqua Jet does a sizable amount of damage onto the Necrozma Dawnwings, and now they're going to retaliate with a potential Moongeist Beam, and they full send the Moongeist Beam. I'm bringing in my KB, and you know what that looks like? That looks like a triple resisted counter down, if ever I've seen one. They're going to fire off a move onto my Moist Man, but Moist Man takes the close combat, no problem, looking for that counter down, gets it, and now we're looking to counter down the Necrozma Dawnwings. No, we make the Aqua Jet. May as well not risk the entire game on a BM farm down. GG's to this trainer. Urshifu Rapid Strike making some free eats out of the Master League meta, and speaking of, it is a Rhyperior up against the Urshifu. Rhyperior staying in. That means that they have something most likely even softer than the Urshifu in the back. That's very good news for us, as we're going to be able to fire off the Aqua Jet and force a shield before they're able to fire off a move. A lot of Rhyperiors will stay here. A lot of Rhyperiors will stay and fire off a Breaking Swipe and a bunch of Mud Slaps to try to get you lower. This is honestly a bad play. Hard switching the Zacian there into a Shadow Rye lead that oftentimes has Ho-Oh in back is disastrous if you get a Ho-Oh onto your Zacian. Now, this trainer seemed to not have respond with the Ho-Oh, so I'm in a good spot there, but they're going to fire off the Surf. It should nearly KO, but yeah, don't safe switch your Zacian. It's not the play. Even if you're going to make a triple resisted catch just like that, it's just not the play. They're going to fire off a move onto KB, but this should only be a Surf. I'm going to no-shield it. Surf, no-shielded doesn't even get us to 50%. They're going to bring in their Rhyperior. However, Rhyperior will have to full send that Rock Wrecker at me to KO, so I shielded up, respecting it, and now I go for the farm down, getting the farm down of the Rhyperior, and now this is just an insurmountable amount of energy. Whatever's coming in is getting free shock onto a Palkia. Palkia no shields it, Moist Man coming in, looking to make a move, and now we can actually counter down this Palkia. They're going to fire off a move. It's going to be the Aqua Tail, but at this point, no reason not to shield it. They go for the Aqua Tail, and they cannot switch, so they get countered down. In comes the Kyogre. Kyogre's getting countered down too. GG's to this trainer. Okay, I honestly don't even know what this is, but I kept it in because finally Urshifu Rapid Strike losing the lead. What is that? Is that a Purified Apex Ho-Oh? What is on my screen? Nevertheless, I safe switch into my KB, and KB is going to be met with a Rhyperior. Not the best counter switch for us, unfortunately. They are going to shield up the electric move. I decided to go for the electric move because why not? If they no shield it, I guess I'm probably just going to lose the game. But now I can shield up the Rock Wrecker, and KB is getting to the free shock. If they no shield this, they will go down, and switch advantage will be ours. They really needed switch advantage because in the back is Lugia's worst nightmare. They're going to bring back in the Lugia, but once again, we're just not scared of this Pokemon. I look to commit to the free shock there, forcing the Lugia to fire off the fly, but now we just align the Lugia onto our Zacian, and this is not going to be a fun time for this trainer. I'm looking to build up to the Behemoth Blade. They've got the Ho-Oh in the back. Ho-Oh is going to be able to have a very nice matchup up against the Zacian if only this trainer managed to keep switch advantage. With a team like this, you certainly would want to keep switch advantage, but nevertheless, we go for the Aqua Jet there, and I'm just calling the Sacred Fire. It's a Sacred Fire. That's not enough to KO. Urshifu Rapid Strike holds, and now we're going to commit to another Aqua Jet here, so we're just going to force the Ho-Oh to throw the Brave Bird, but the Brave Bird means that 4 or 5 more Metal Claws will pick up the KO. Back in comes the Lugia. Lugia is revered to be one of the most bulky Pokemon you could run in the Master League, but Zacian just has a disrespectful attack stat. Behemoth Blade number 1 is shielded, but that's not going to save them from Behemoth Blade number 2, nearly picking up the knockout. 2 more Metal Claws will do it. GG's to this trainer. Alright, we've got Moistman against Fraudulent Moistman, Kyogre, and Urshifu Rapid Strike having a great matchup here. They stay in to throw a waterfall, bring in their Palkia. Their Palkia is now at a significant pacing disadvantage, as if it weren't already up against Urshifu Rapid Strike. They do have to bait in order to land a Spatial Rend in most situations there. I'm just bringing in the Zacian. Once again, if you blast me, you blast me. If you don't, whatever. I'm firing off the Behemoth Blade. Palkia wants to get all this energy off. They are going to be forced to shield, but they're not going to go down 2 shields there. Unfortunate for me, if they have the blast, I'm going down, but it's an Aqua Tail. They don't have the blast, and now that is a prime position. That looks like the most Metal Claw downable Palkia I have ever seen. They're going to get Metal Claw down. They're going to reach one final move here, but that's fine. I'll just go ahead and let this go. I will get KO'd here, but I'd rather the energy on either Urshifu Rapid Strike or, in this case, KB. If you guys don't know my motto when it comes to the Match League, it's all about KB, baby. So we're going to fire off the Fusion Bolt, and that energy lead is going to prove to be very impactful versus this Primarina. I decide to play with the Primarina in mind. They hard pivot into the Kyogre. What is this play pattern? This is just going to allow the KB to be able to make the double Fusion Bolt needed to win this game. They are able to live on 1 HP, so the catch onto the Urshifu Rapid Strike. They fire off the Surf. We're probably getting charmed down here, but does it really matter when we have the Fusion Bolt loaded? It certainly does not. Fusion Bolt onto the Primarina is going to be GG's. Oh my goodness, it's another good lead for Urshifu Rapid Strike, as it's going to be a Shadow Rhyperior. These Shadow Rhyperior teams were hopelessly weak to the Urshifu Rapid Strike. When they save switch into their Palkia, I'm always happy to just stay in, get some counter damage off on it, and then fire off a Dynamic Punch. This counter damage allows me to come in with my Zacian and then attempt to go for a Behemoth Blade KO where I don't have to go down like double debuffing my defense there. I decide to shield up the first Aqua Tail because if it was a Fire Blast, I just lose my entire Zacian for free. So I opted not to allow them to do that, and I am going to look to overfarm to the maximum, then fire off a move onto the Palkia. I will have to pick up the KO on the Palkia here because their switch timer will be up, so undercharging really won't do me very many favors, other than leaving their Palkia on low HP that could potentially be used for a catch later. So I do pick up the KO onto the Palkia. They're bringing back in the Rhyperior, but I'm just going for the close combat and hoping that that Mud Slap that snuck will be enough to KO. And indeed it is. We are bringing back in the Moistman. In the back they have Lunala. Lunala gonna be in for a truly difficult time up against a Shadow Claw user in Kyurem Black. Kyurem Black shielding up the Shadow Ball. There's just nothing Lunala can do here. I overfarm as much as I can, and when they make their next Shadow Ball, I'm going for the Fusion Bolt. Once again, once that Rhyperior comes back in, it is utterly helpless. We're one Shadow Claw off of the Freeze Shock, and it looks like that was a 5-0 set, maybe a 4-1. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. That was a 4-1 set all the way up to Expert at 2785 Elo. That shirt is absolutely sick, so I did equip it. We might see that in future battles, but nevertheless, another Rhyperior lead, and Rhyperior, when it stays into Urshifu Rapid Strike, Shadow Rhyperior is a lot better here because it can shield and do quite a bit of damage with Mud Slap and Breaking Swipe. However, I can no-shield a Breaking Swipe from a non-Shadow. I'm going to fire off the Aqua Jet. Aqua Jet onto this Rhyperior is going to guarantee a KO despite the debuff. It is double super effective from an Urshifu after all. They're going to fire off a move, and I know this is only going to be a Breaking Swipe, so no shielded on the KB, and in the back they're going to bring in their Zacian. I am going to likely be aligned onto a Ho-Oh in the end game with my Zacian, so we're going to have to try to work around that fact. Fusion Bolt onto their Zacian will do quite a bit of damage, and now I do have a Fusion Bolt there, but I am just going to let my KB go here, and they go for the more expensive Behemoth Blade. I think I can bring in Urshifu and commit to a farm down. I am going to go for that play. They're of course going to fire off the close combat here as it's the move that they get, and now we just get that counter down. What is it they decide to bring in? It is going to be that Ho-Oh we were talking about earlier, and thankfully we have a lot of banked energy on our Urshifu. At any point, this opponent could decide to bring in the Rhyperior and potentiate a KO there, but fortunately they didn't go for the Mud Slap Snipe. And I actually am going to be in a very good spot because they didn't do that. And now I'm just firing off the CC onto the Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh is so low that it is actually going to be forced to respect this damage. And they do respect it. They're going to fire off a move onto my Zacian. And now they're likely going to switch. They go for the Brave Bird. I'm just not going to throw until I make sure that an Incinerate comes through there. I'm very low. That Incinerate should have guaranteed landed. I'm on 1 HP. How healthy is their Rhyperior? Too healthy. And they're going to get that game. GG's. A very nice lead for Urshifu Rapid Strike in the next match. You may not think it, but there is a very distinct way how you want to play this matchup out. So Zacian, it gets the double close combat on 13 Metal Claws. Unfortunately, this trainer throws early, but what you'll do is you'll throw your Aqua Jet on the 13th Metal Claw, and in most situations, they just safe switched into the Necrozma Dawn Wings, and it's getting shredded by our Shadow Claw fast move pressure. But nevertheless, that lead matchup, you throw 13 counters, then throw your Aqua Jet, intentionally lose CMP, shield up their close combat, and they cannot no-shield. If they no-shield your Aqua Jet, they will just get KO'd. They're bringing back in their Zacian. Zacian's going to be able to fire off a move onto KB, but I feel like as if KB has done its job here. They go for the close combat, and now it's Urshifu's time to look for the counter down. But instead, I am going to go for the Aqua Jet, maybe looking to grab a shield, and I am able to grab a shield. I go for another Aqua Jet. Unfortunately, it's caught onto a Palkia, and this is going to be quite a tough game. I am going to look to rebank a little bit of energy here, and now I have to switch into my own Palkia. This could very well only be the Aqua Jet, so I'm just going to let this go, or rather the Aqua Tail, and now I'm bringing in my Zacian. The counter damage has left their Palkia in a range where Behemoth Blade will be enough to KO, and they could potentially go for a Fire Blast here, but they're not going to be able to make it before we're able to land with our Behemoth Blade. They shield there, maybe telegraphing that they have Fire Blast. This is a tough call to make. I'm going to shield it up. It's an Aqua Tail bait, and if they have Fire Blast and they just Aqua Tail baited me, I'm going to be in a really difficult position. They're going to fire off a move. It's just another Aqua Tail, and that just means that I can commit to the farm down here. They bring in their own Zacian, too far behind on energy. We have the Behemoth Blade. Behemoth Blade onto their Zacian will pick up the knockout. We've never lowered our defense in this game, so they will have to continue to throw an Aqua Tail there, and it still wouldn't KO. We're going to pick up the knockout with our Moist Man, and speaking of, it's going to lead into a Kyurem Black. KB is a pretty terrible Pokemon for us to see on the lead. We're going to throw 5 counters, wait a turn, and attempt to catch a Fusion Bolt onto our own KB, and there really isn't much of a play I can make here. They can just go straight Free Shock, and I will just lose my KB, but instead, they decide to go for the Fusion Bolt, and I'm baiting them right back. You better not shield this. If you shield it, you're going to be in a really bad spot. They shield up what was the Fusion Bolt bait, and now I make another Fusion Bolt here, and now I'm shielded back. We're playing this matchup out. Something doesn't want to see my Moist Man in the back, and now I'm going for another Fusion Bolt. Fusion Bolt onto the KB. Are they going to shield it? Are they not? They no shield once again, and this is still pretty decent for me. I'm going to overfarm here, and now I have a move banked for later, and I think I can just bring in Urshifu. I attempt to, but unfortunately we get the forced overtap. A Shadow Claw comes through instead, and suddenly this isn't feeling too good, but I think they undercharged their Fusion Bolt because I lived, and I get to store all that energy for later. Looking for the snipe with their Zacian, but they're down 2 shields. A Dynamic Punch lands on them for free, but that also means I'm down 2 shields, and a close combat's going to land on me for free. But crucially, I think we might just live. It's a Play Rough. The Play Rough, we certainly will not live. But now it's all up to this. I think I can bring in my Zacian and commit to a farm down. I am looking for it. Are we able to get there? Yes, we are. Because of the pacing of Play Rough and Behemoth Blade, it's substantially worse than Play Rough and Close Combat. They are going to get farmed down there. And in the back, they do have their Palkia. This means I can go for the Behemoth Blade and combo play with my Kyurem Black, but the Dragon Breath KO'd. This is terrible. If they have Fire Blast, we're just going to lose this game. It all comes down to this. It's an Aqua Tail. We live it, and now we have the close combat. Firing off the close combat, making sure they don't catch onto their last Pokemon, and close combat connects onto the Palkia. In comes the KB. It gets farmed down. GG's to this trainer. Okay, a little bit of a tricky lead in the next game, and you may think, okay, but you have the typing advantage, how is this a tricky lead? Urshifu Rapid Strike is hitting for resisted counters up against this Ho-Oh, so what we're going to do is throw 8 counters, because that gives them the opportunity to throw the Brave Bird and then concede switch advantage. So that's my ideology there. They are going to safe switch into a Dragon Tail Palkia. I don't even know what to say about this, by the way. It is certainly not doing very much damage to the Zacian. I go for the Behemoth Blade, expecting that this is going to be a Fire Blast. I'm now no-shielding. This is a very weird Dragon Tail Palkia, right? It's probably going to blast me, and indeed it did blast me. But what play did my Zacian have up against the Ho-Oh anyway? We're just going to bring in Urshifu Rapid Strike and get a pretty big farm down. Back in comes the Ho-Oh, and we're going to be able to connect with an Aqua Jet. Aqua Jet would do some sizable damage onto the Ho-Oh, but not KO, so a very nice no-shield from my opponent. They're going to fire off a move here, likely to be a Brave Bird or a Sacred Fire, but not an Earthquake. Opponent running the Earthquake Legacy Ho-Oh. You know what? I haven't seen that one other than this battle, so, you know, hats off to them, I guess. I'm bringing in my KB, and in the back, they've got the Ho-Oh and Dialga Origin Core, which is very popular before, but not so much anymore because, yeah, Dialga Origin just isn't a good Pokemon with 2 other Steel types that just completely pushed it into obscurity. They're going to make a move on 1 HP, but I just don't care. Bringing in the Urshifu Rapid Strike, I've got a shield. So Ho-Oh, if it doesn't get countered down, is going to take an Aqua Jet here. And the most important thing to know about Ho-Oh, it's a lot like a Azumarill in the Great League. It cannot hold 2 moves. It gets countered down. GG's to this trainer. If you made it to this point in the video, thanks so much for watching. I generally wouldn't be the one to team repeat, as honestly, I don't know any Pogo content creators that do that. But I will say that I wanted to make another video on this team, one because it was the team that pushed me over the edge and got me to the expert rank, but also it's pretty strong. I will say it is a little less strong into the post Lunala accessibility era of this rendition of the Master League, but it's still a pretty solid team, all things considered. Of course, you're gonna struggle a lot against you know, Necrozma Dawnwings or Lunala leads, but outside of that, Urshifu Rapid Strike cements itself as a very solid Pokemon in the Master League, and one that I think that if you don't have built currently, once again, my recommendation is to work on getting the resources to build it, because it is absolutely insane. That being said, thanks once again so much for watching. I've been Shmeaty. I hope to see you all again next time, and have a good rest of your day. See ya.